Hi, it's Marcy Kate. This is part 3 of my NaNoWriMo prep series, and today we're going to talk about fast drafting and I have some Scrivener tips at the end for you as well. Since this is part 3, you may have caught on to the fact that I do an awful lot of prep work for NaNoWriMo. This is really important for me for any novel, but especially for NaNoWriMo, because I don't want anything to get in the way and slow me down once we start writing words, which we get to do tonight. Hooray! I'm all ready. I have my t-shirt, my sweatshirt here. Have my caffeine, I'm ready to go. Very excited. And we get an extra hour tonight too if you're in the US and daylight savings time. So I'm gonna be staying up late and writing some words tonight. I'm excited. Anyway, so if you're participating as well, your daily minimum word count goal is 1,667 words. That is no small task, not at all. Personally, I am not normally a fast drafter, but there's something about NaNoWriMo that kind of kicks me into high gear. It's something inspiring about all this whole community writing words together at the same time, and a lot of them at that. That's really kind of inspiring. Also, I'm a little competitive, so that certainly doesn't hurt. Also doesn't hurt that I almost always seem to have a looming edit letter right around November. So I have a lot of things that kind of manage to kick me into high gear right around this time of year for getting words on the page. And because of this, I've actually managed to win NaNoWriMo within the first couple of weeks a few times, mostly because of this kind of panic writing in some ways. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that you don't need to compare your output to mine. This is literally my job. And if you have a day job, you have kids, you have pandemic melees, or any other kind of stressor, your decision to set this challenge of writing 50,000 words in 1 month is amazing. That's phenomenal. I am right here cheering along with you, okay? So if my word count happens to be higher than yours, please don't feel bad. Like, that's because it's literally my job. I have time devoted during the day, every day, to do writing. That's what I do. So I do have a day job too, but it's part-time, so I still have that time blocked off. And I have a great support system and all of that. I'm really very privileged in that respect. So don't compare. Comparison is the devil. It's not good. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Your word count and taking this challenge is a really great thing. So be proud of yourself with whatever words you get on the page, even if it's not even that right goal. It's okay. It's better than a blank page, that's for sure, because you can't revise a blank page or make a blank page better. So how do I approach fast drafting? For me, there's 3 main things that I do to help me reach my word count goal. First, I write in small chunks. I use an app called Focus Booster, and it's one I've downloaded my computer, and there's plenty of other tomato timers or Pomodoro timers out there that you can use, but it helps me really focus on my story for about 25 minutes each, and then with a 5-minute break. And sometimes that break's a lot longer, depending on whether it's a work day and I'm kind of doing this between meetings or something. But I usually find if I do that, then when I sit down at the end of the day, my writing total is more than if I just try to write all that writing in within 2-hour chunks or something like that. So second, I also reward myself. A big fan of rewards. I reward myself when I meet big goals, little goals, daily goals, all of them, because I find that motivating. It helps push me forward when I feel stuck. For me, I have a Cadbury cream egg secreted away in my desk that I'm gonna put in the freezer once I hit my goal and get to enjoy that. That's my reward for winning Nano overall. I know it's ridiculous. They have more preservatives than Twinkies, or at least as much, but I really like them. And they're great frozen, so that's my reward. Kind of silly, but it works for me. And third, I give myself permission. And I think this is one of the most important things for me anyway, is I give myself permission not to be perfect. There are writers out there who can fast draft and have a high quality output. I'm not one of them. I wish I was. I'm a little jealous of those people. I'm friends with a couple of them who are really good at writing very quickly and writing very well very quickly. But I'm not one of those. It's harder for me. Some days it feels like just pulling taffy from my brain to get words on the page, and it can be really a big struggle. So I have to allow myself to be at peace with the fact that my NaNoWriMo first drafts are probably gonna be pretty sloppy. But this is also why plotting is so important to me to do ahead of time, because even if the writing isn't perfect, I've got the plot down at least. I have that down. And for me, that's what revisions are for. So you can't revise a blank page, so getting something down is truly a necessity. So those are my 3 fast drafting tips if you're not a fast drafter. I am on NaNoWriMo.org. And if you want to buddy me, that would be cool. My username is Marcy Kate. So if you're going to spell my name, you can find me on NaNoWriMo. Always love to have more buddies to cheer each other on. And this year, I'm actually working on 2 projects. Normally, I don't actually recommend this. But I do need to get words down in each one, and I do generally tend to juggle projects. So I've done this a few times before, and it's been okay. It hasn't been confusing. So I'm able to do this, but I wouldn't really recommend doing it unless like you have to, like I do. So I have 2. One's a middle grade book I'm calling my Win book, and another's a young adult book. And I'm pretty excited about them both. So hopefully I'll get some good wordage down, and it'll be great. So now I'm going to show you one of my my final prep work in Scrivener, and including my all-time favorite trick in Scrivener. All right. So final prep in Scrivener. So I have, this is my Wind book, my middle grade fantasy that I'm working on, the beginning of anyway. And when I started for Nano, I put my outline in chapters or notes or beats or whatever I have prepared. For me, this year it's chapters. So I have little notes put in here in the top of each one. This is where the little things we put in the beat sheet, I put those there. So they're always in my line of view. And then what I also do is I do some color coding sometimes, depending on the book. There's this section here under general metadata in the inspector. And I will use labels. And these are the basic ones that they have. For me, I'm just doing chapters with this book, not doing anything kind of funky, so that's just pretty simple. However, if you're doing things like multiple point of view or anything like that, you can actually add custom labels right here and pick the colors and all of that. So you can also do custom statuses. These are the basic ones: to do, first draft, etc. I often do like second draft, third draft, fourth draft, many drafts to keep track of where each one is. But for now, for just the drafting, I have everything set to do because I haven't written anything yet, and I have it set to chapter. Now, another book that I'm working on, my YA book, I have chapters, but I also have some chapters that are flashbacks. So I have this actually color coded with the flashbacks of being like a darker green than the chapter ones. That way it's kind of visually I can see where those flashbacks are falling within the frame of the story, and if they're too close together, that kind of a thing. So that's another way that you could use those the labels if you're interested in that. Also, if you have multiple points of view, that can be super helpful with that too. I use that a lot when I have multiple points of view. Now, to make the color appear on the binder, you just need to go to View and then scroll down to Use Label Color In. And you'll see here you have several different options. Personally, I prefer the icons to be a color, so that's what I usually do. You have a few other things you could do. For example, you could do the binder, which makes it every row. You could also add it to the outliner rows, which makes it look like so. Personally, not a big fan of this, but other people might be, depending on what they're trying to do. And you can also add it to the index cards. You'll see first and foremost it turns this green, and then when you go to the corkboard, these are green now too. So those are a few ways you can add those to that and have this nice sort of visual cue. I am going to actually remove these because I don't need these colors for this project. I only have one point of view, and right now I don't have anything I need to track with it. Maybe I will later, but for now we're just going to take these all out like so. So I have my beats put in here, my little chapters. I've figured out where the chapters are going to fall. So I have that sit in here. So now what I'm going to do when I start writing on middle of the night, actually, probably on Halloween, because I'm ridiculous like that. And hey, we get an extra hour because of daylight savings time here in the US. I will be going here to, to the outliner, and I will say, okay, here's all my stuff. I have a little synopsis, what they are, what needs to be done, how much word count I've gotten into this so far, and what my target is. Kind of figured out probably approximately 1,500 words per chapter. Might be a little more, might be a little less. That's kind of my basic general goal. So when I start writing, every day I come in here, I look at this frame, and I'll see, oh, okay, I see what I need progress on, what I've made no progress on, what needs to be done, hasn't been started, where I'm actually finished something, and that'll help me figure out what I need to do. Because one thing that I do when I write is I tend to jump around a lot when I write. I don't usually write in order unless I have to. So that helps me stay focused and figure out what I need to do. Now I'm going to show you my favorite Scrivener tip of all time. Lots of people really like this one when I show them in workshops, and it's how to import a document. And you can use this when, for example, as often happens, people will write before NaNoWriMo some words in their book, but you can't count those words towards NaNoWriMo, your final word count. But you want to have them all in the same Scrivener document. So what you do is you would import it. So the first thing you need to do is you need to take your Word document that you've already written, and you need to do one thing. You need to put a symbol. Usually, simplest thing to do is a pound sign before each place you'd want a chapter or scene break. So if you're doing what I do, because I always have them just in these text documents here, then you would just put a little pound sign here before each scene. And I'm just using dummy text for this. I've got three scenes here and some comments as well. Show you how those will import too. Make sure that's all prepped before each one. Save it. And then you go to Scrivener. And you go to Import, File, Import. And you're going to go to Import and Split. No more copying and pasting your text into Scrivener, okay? Here we go. So we're going to find my test import file. You can change this to something else if you'd rather, but this is usually not in your document, not something you normally be using, so makes it pretty simple. Just make sure it's not randomly in the middle of a chapter, otherwise it will split it there, so be careful about that. So once you browse and find that prepped document, click OK. And since I had, what I should have done, is had my cursor on the manuscript thing at the top. Because I didn't, it placed them right where your cursor is. So it placed them nested under chapter 8. So let me just move those to the main thing here, just dragging and dropping. So don't do that. Just put your cursor on the manuscript part here. Then you do the import. But these are now here and imported and split just as they're supposed to be. Now you also will see, it's all underlined because my Scrivener does not like Latin. Swear they are real words in Latin. See here, this is where your comment was, my comment was before. Now, if I want to make that, and this is a little comment function here, have it appear here, what to do, let's go Format and Convert, then go Inline Annotations to Inspector Comments. And then boom, there is your comment in the sidebar. I'm going to do it for each one of these. Put your cursor in there, in the thing to go to Convert, Inline Annotations to Inspector Comments. And I've used this little trick for a variety of things, not just NaNoWriMo. If you don't put your cursor in there, it won't let you do it. So you'll be sure you do that. I've used this for a variety of things where this is actually very helpful for me when I've had critique partners who've sent me documents with a lot of comments. I will actually pull this in and I can have them right here and do a split screen in Scrivener, which I'll talk about another time, and compare side by side as I revise my book, which can be really helpful too. But for NaNoWriMo, if you have this, something you want to pull into your Scrivener document that you've written beforehand, you can do that. Now, the other thing you can do is if you go back to the synopsis part here, the label here is not automatically generated. Now, the one thing you have to be careful of is because if you've written words beforehand, you cannot count them towards your NaNoWriMo word count. So you have to separate them out. So one way to do that is to use a custom label. So you can then label each of these as pre-nano. That way you keep track of what is correct and what's not. And if you don't want to include them in your word count, all you have to do is uncheck include and compile. And that will take them out of your target tally. When you click this, it'll take it out. Which of these? There we go. So you can see our manuscript is now down to 0. Even though it does say that you wrote some words here, you can reset that. And that'll bring it back to 0 for you. So that's one of my favorite Scrivener tips. I hope you found that useful. And again, I have been working in a PC, so if you have a Mac or using the iOS version of Scrivener, please use the links that I posted in little screen caps for over the video, where you have a walkthrough there of the similar things. So you're not left out in the lurch, I promise. If you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out on social media and say hi. I'm happy to chat about Scrivener anytime. So that's it for today. Next time, I'm going to give some more tips about using the inspector. There's lots of fun tools in there, and we'll talk about that next time. Thanks so much. Happy writing.